Hey YouTube, welcome back. As promised, this is some of the final assembly for the rear end for the ERA Cobra. I have in here, and I promised these before, these beautiful pen drive hubs. These are from ERA. They, I assume, have them manufactured specifically for them. It's a really pretty stainless steel. They are not cheap, and if UPS drops them at the wrong house, it can be really stressful for a couple of days till they find them. But they're here, they're installed, they're pressed on. I've got the right size backspace washer in there, so this time, previously I'd shaved it down too much. When I torqued the nut, it preloaded the bearings and was obviously wrong. So, got a new one from England of all places. But we're going to go through this evening here kind of shortly, is just assembling this on here. I'll show you the nifty little stage 8 fasteners that'll keep these nuts from backing off. They had backed off previously when I originally disassembled. It was missing 2 nuts, I think one on each side. It won't be able to now, and you'll see why in just a minute. So that's enough talking. Let's get this thing put together. The way these are spaced, they only go on one way, and that's not it. That's it. Get those guys on there. And if you'll see, these nuts have a little groove cut in them, and you'll see why in just a minute. But there's not a lot of space here, and because of that, the locking tab on these fasteners, which you'll see in just a minute, had to be modified because it wouldn't fit, and hopefully I modified it enough. And always take more off if need be. Now, I'm not going to be able to turn that because this other one is sitting down here. And that's not the way I want it to go, but we'll free this up so I can run that down. Maybe we'll be nice and either cut this or fast forward it so you don't have to watch me spin down an unruly nut. No, it's not. Bang the cotter poke, please. Alright, there we go. Down to it now. So you can see that when you have to replace brake discs on this, it's a lot of work. All this has got to come apart just to get to the discs. It's interesting design that they lower unsprung weight by putting those discs in there, but man, it makes it a bit of a challenge to work on. There's also allegedly a little bit of problem with cooling. I'm not really seeing a whole lot of track time with this car, so that's probably okay. If it becomes a problem, tell you what, we're going to lower this guy down here. Give us a little more room. Oh, this is so exciting. Watching Trey spin nuts. One more, uno mas. All right. Well, say one more. This one needs to go ahead and spin him while I can get to it. The reason I think these are a little hard to get on is the previous nuts were a kind of a mechanical impingement style locking fastener. You can't use nylon in here, or nylox, because this obviously gets pretty hot and they just melt right out. The previous were the sort of a crimped head bolt, and I didn't like that for a couple reasons. One is it had proven itself to be unreliable because a couple of them had backed off and were lost. And two, at least to me, I think it rolls over or kind of galls the threads every time it goes on and deforms them a little bit. I mean, that's kind of the way it works. And I like this plant better. The guys at Stage 8 were really nice. I called them, explained my application and what size or what thread and diameter and pitch. They dug around the back. Okay, we have those. They're not cut yet. They had them shipped out in a couple of days. Here within maybe 5. They were a little bit expensive, but I think well worth it. I only needed 8. And as you'll see when you get done, it's going to be sort of a mechanical impossibility for these things to come off. Let me get a deep socket so I can make sure to get the torque on that. Those are, if you care, 11/16. Let's see if I can use it without the joint. I can't. Okay, so these are supposed to be 27 foot-pounds. I will come back probably after this video. I have a 3/8 drive torque wrench coming this weekend, and I'll probably have my son come out and help me by holding a pry bar through the axle, through the joint here. But right now, let's go ahead and use this to our advantage and turn it to where I can get to the nut. Come off of there. Seriously, man. All right. Good. Now, let's see. The neat thing about these locking fasteners is take them on and off. It's just a C-clip. You see, have this eccentric tab. Used to be big around here. I had to mill it down a bit. You'll put it on here on the side where the bolt would loosen, or the nut would loosen. And with that on here, and I didn't cut that down enough, I don't think. Actually, yeah, I did. Just enough. So you do that. Now, once I put the C-clip on, it holds that little aluminum retainer down, and that thing is cammed, not cammed, but it holds the nut. And if this nut is trying to back out, it's actually going to physically come in contact with the rest of the brake, or the flange there, and it can't rotate, which is pretty darn cool if you ask me. But you didn't ask me to do. This one we'll want to put with the tab on that side, because if you, the way it would come off counterclockwise, and this will prevent that from happening. I'm not happy with that. Let's see if we have one that's a little bit more milled down. Yes, that one is. That on there, it can't rotate. Another C-clip. Are these Cclips? Eclips or C-clips? Either way, they are on there and not coming off. That's better. How's the kitchen? finally warmed up here in Texas. It's a little warm out here this evening. I don't like the way that one went on. We're going to back it back off and see if there's a better spot. Oop, did I bump you? There we go. Now it's all seated all the way down. You can think about the centrifugal force of this thing spinning around. You don't want it flinging those retainers off of there. Really? It's going to be difficult now. Let's see if I can set you up and turn you the more proper way. Yep, last one. These remind me of, if you look on the front of some heavy trucks, they'll have, those are sort of different. They're actually not meant to, as far as I understand, they're not meant to keep it from turning, the lug nuts, but they're meant to indicate that you dropped a C-clip, indicate that the lug nut turns, so they can do an easy inspection without having to, what am I doing wrong here? Why are you not going on? An easy inspection to see if anything's come off torque. There we go. Nice. Good click. And we are on. Those are installed. Next we move on to putting the crossbar through here. Crossbar. The fulcrum bolt. This went pretty easily on the other side, so let's see if we get to laugh at me. It doesn't go easily here. I'd previously set those up. There's not really a lot to that setup, so I didn't bother filming it. It's just to put the bearing packs in there, replace the stupid leather seal with a, modern and stuff. Buta, not sure what the actual rubber type is, but a modern seal, so we're not having to deal with foam blowing around the yard. We're not having to deal with animal byproducts. I guess if you think about it, rubber's very indirect animal byproduct because all those dead dinosaurs making your petroleum so you can make your rubber. Rambling a bit this evening. Okay, now we get to play does Trey have enough hands? So far so good. Once I get it started, I can make sure that all the components don't fall out. Alright. Can get it lined up. That's good. So I'm going to pre-lube the shaft. All these, there'll be a grease cert that goes here. I pre-lube the bearings as I put them in. And then this whole unit needs to be properly greased, but I'm not going to bother doing that until it's closer to going in the car. Now, you monkey. That should be pretty close. Let's see. Ah! You gotta hold your mouth just right. There's the problem. Hope you like looking at the side of my head. I was trying to make this closer. Let's see. Hopefully you can get the idea here. Is I've got this wooden dummy the wooden dummy shaft in there, and that's what's keeping all my bearings in line. Tell you what, if it's going to be like that, please don't fall out. I'll take that other nut off and we'll try going from the other side. Oh, you monkey. Told you it's going to be funny. Let's watch Trey fight with this. It's going to be so awesome. Okay, let's think about this. If I can get that wood dummy started, it'll hold it in position. So I need to concentrate on one side and push from the other in something that's not covered in grease, which will be great. Let's see. I'll put the screwdriver in one side. Get that side where I can see it. And push on this one. Ah! Ha ha! Now, we can concentrate on lining the other side up and getting it started just like that. And we get Mr. Deadblow, our ever helpful friend. And I'm going to move you so I don't smash you. Let's make sure you can still see what I'm doing. Better? Sure. Ah. Okay. Got that in. Let's run our nut and washer on one side. And now I get to cheat a little bit. I had to sort through this on the other side of where does this bracket go in relation to the washer going the inside or the outside. Struggled finding some reference pictures on the internet. It seems it does go, the washer goes first, then this guy goes on this side of it. Otherwise, we'll see. Interesting here is this one looks like it wants to touch even with the washer over here. The washer's different thickness. Don't seem to be. I doubt it's two washers on one side because that makes no damn sense at all. But this is a Jaguar. When we go to put the shocks on and get to entertain you with the bolt that has half the nut or half the head cut off, so it can fit by this tube. It's very entertaining, I assure you. Well, before you start fretting about that here, Trey, we're gonna because over here it clears by the barest of margins. And I'm not going to lube up this shaft right now. Some genius torqued the nut down. Wonder who that could have done. I should find that guy and smack him around a little bit. It's not 16 millimeter. It is a 5/8. Why don't you get a 5/8? So when we get the shocks in from ERA, they'll go here, get mounted down there, and this thing will be a fairly complete assembly at that point. Big Bad Daddy nylock here. Tell you what, we'll go ahead and run these down fairly tightly so you can kind of see how it looks. But when we get done, I'll pull back and just give you a little overview, because the next time you see this guy, I guess we'll be putting shocks in it, and I will, sounds funny, I'll probably bring it into the house and leave it in my office just because I like looking at it, and it won't be out here getting all dusty with the lawnmower and all the other stuff out here. What size do you say that is? That is a, I'm going to say 13/16. Let's see. Man, you're so far off. 15/16. Yeah, see, it was a 16th of some fashion. I'll be needing that 15/16 box in that I don't own. Nope. So, how did I do this last time? Massive crescent wrench? I'm going to guess yes. We can do that. We have a massive crescent wrench at our disposal. Eyeballing it with the other side so I can, since I already did the work over there kind of to get them even. A little more. Here more. Okay, now we'll switch. Maybe a little bit much. And doggone it, what we did over here. It ran the other side in. Hey, what I want. Back it up a little bit anyway. Kind of call that good. As I said, we're going to do all the final torques later. Just to make this symmetrical, because that pleases me. Put my little blankie under here, because right now there's no shocks, right? So it's going to go down, or up in this case, I guess, since it's upside down, further than it normally would. But this is where we're at. Let me see if I can pull you off of there and have a little look-see around. Okay. And this is what we've got. It is now mostly assembled. Got my powder coated brake calipers. I haven't put the pads in, I have them. I just didn't want to bother with them. Those are easy to get in later. And quite honestly, anything I could put on this thing, or anything I'd not put on here, it is heavy. When it comes time to flip this guy over, it's going to take a few strong neighbors and me to get this thing right way up. That's why I prefer to store it, but until I get shocks on it, it kind of doesn't make sense, because you're going to need to be able to pull those two sides up. So to show around, you can see the, yeah, you can see the ends of the parking brake levers. It's the area I was telling you about. There's a Heim joint that's going to go in here that comes out, and I'll have to get that in and bolted on before the shocks go in, because here, the way they engineered this, the bolt comes in from this side. They have one side of the head cut off, so it just fits by this tube, which is artificially shortened because it needs to be that long. So there's this big fat spacer, and the shock actually goes out there on either side. It's something. Here's the grease zerk I was talking about earlier. Oh, we can get you a on the side with more light here. Maybe a closer drive. Look at these sexy things. That pen drives, and the original car had them. I like the look of them. Talking with their ERA's suspension guy, I kind of, between he and I kind of talked myself into it, or he talked me into it. Whatever, I did it. I don't regret it. The powder coat looks all nice, except for, I think we just may have discussed this earlier. It's missing from right here, almost like it got eaten off by brake clean, which it did. I was trying to do a last clean out of the housing before I started assembling, and looked down and what's the mess on the ground? Well, the mess on the ground was my powder coat melting off, which sucks. But I put shark hide on it. It shouldn't rust. Until I, have this in a show and people were looking at the bottom of it, I don't think that's going to matter. You can see my safety wiring. I'm sure it's not the best ever, but it does work. More safety wiring down there, as you can barely see. And here's the rear with the little vent tube pointed upside down, because this whole thing's upside down. But that's about all. Thanks for watching, and the next video will be me putting the nice expensive shocks on here. It'll be great. Thanks again.